Munz, you're up.
This is in Howard's honor. I normally wouldn't wear this because I'm a lifelong Montreal fan, but this is in Howard's honor. And this is an authentic '94 Stanley Cup hat. So Howie was a wonderful guy. We became friends in high school because I didn't know him from Quaker Ridge days. And hockey was our bond, although we certainly talked about a lot of different things, and he was a fascinating guy, but hockey was really our bond. So I just wanted to tell everybody a story which you may not have heard, but I think is vintage Howard, and was one of the more fun and daring escapades of my youth. So Howie and I, now first of all, Howie was a really good hockey player. He should have joined us on the Scarsdale Hawks. I used to take him out in Herkimer Pond, and he had some game, but for some reason I could never get him out on the ice. He was a moving force in roller hockey, as you know. We'll come back to that. But I used to go over to Howie's house, and we used to go in the den and watch Ranger games. And it sounds a little nerdy, but we'd watch the games and we'd turn the volume down and we'd announce the games. And so Howie would record these things. So we thought we could do a better job than Jim Gordon and Bill Chadwick. So we used to sit there and watch Ranger games. And one day we were doing an afternoon game, and Howie just turned to me between periods and he said, "Munz, I have this great idea." He said, "We got to go to Boston. We got to go see the Rangers play in Boston." So I said, "Okay, let's see if we can get tickets." Now this is pre-StubHub, this is pre-computer, this is pre-everything. So how are we going to get to Boston and go to a sold-out Boston Garden? Actually, the Bruins had won the Cup in '72, so it was a tough ticket. So Howie says, "You're a sick little boy named Timmy, and I'm your father. And we're going to write a letter to Harry Sinden, who's the general manager of the Boston Bruins, and say that even though we live in Scarsdale, New York, where this postmark is coming from, that Timmy doesn't have much time left, and his lifelong ambition is to see the beloved Stanley Cup champion Boston Bruins on Causeway Street in Boston at the Garden." And so, Howie would spend a lot of different things, so this is between periods, and I said, that's ridiculous. Well, Howie actually wrote this letter, typed it out on the old crinkly paper, and would correct type and everything like that, and this is about 2 weeks later, and I just forgot about it. I mean, it was just another Howie moment. He comes to me in school, and he goes, "Munz, you got to see this. You got to see this." So he has an envelope, and so we go into some corner of the high school, some covert operation here, and he shows me the envelope, and sure enough, there's the embossed seal of the Boston Bruins, and he takes out this letter. And this letter is from Harry Sinden, the general manager of the Boston Bruins. Now, how many guys like hockey here? Or how many women? There's okay. 72 Bruins, right? Won the Stanley Cup. This is Bobby Orr. This is Phil Esposito. We can go through the lines, right? Esposito, Hodge, and Cashman. Busick. Who's on the wing? Anyway, we'll come back to me. So he pulls this letter out, and it says, "Mr. Young, we read your note, with great emotion, and we would really be honored to host you and your son at the Boston Garden for a game." And it goes on, and Howie says, "Reach in the envelope." And sure enough, in the envelope are 2 tickets. Now again, this is before you could go online, but certainly before you could go online, but actually, you couldn't really see the stadium seating plan. That was kind of hard to get to. So there were these 2 tickets. We had no idea whether they were good, bad, or indifferent, but here's a letter from Harry Sinden. So anyway, we sit there, and for a week, the game I think was maybe 2 or 3 weeks off. So the first week, we're just, what are we going to do? It's just a goof. What are we going to do? Howie's first idea is, we can't scalp the tickets. We got to go. So we end up driving up to Boston. We're the whole way up. All we can talk about is, so what if they're really good seats, and what if before the game there's a spotlight at center ice, and what if they're expecting, this sick child to be wheeled out for a ceremony? And what if Bobby Orr is there and has a signed stick, and what are we going to do? Neither one of us looks like an adult, so we're like, okay, Timmy had a relapse, and so we're his two brothers. It's like, no, that's not going to work. Well, I'm Timmy's cousin, and Timmy's father had a business trip, and so you be Timmy, and I'll be your cousin. So anyway, the whole way up, we didn't know what to say, but we said, you know what, we're overthinking this. We're just 2 tickets, we'll go and watch the game, this is great, this is terrific. So we get the tickets, and we go into the old Boston Garden. Now, how many of you ever went to the Boston Garden? A real pit. It smelled like stale urine, just nasty, painted that hideous yellow. So we go into the Boston Garden. It's a really old building, and they don't make athletic facilities like this anymore. Very narrow corridors and stuff like that, so we go in, and we're expecting to go right up, though. We're expecting to go up the stairs, because we don't know where the seats are. And the usher says, that way, that way. And so we're on flat ground. So, okay, this is promising. So we're walking around, we're looking for section, whatever it is, and it begins with a 1, so we weren't thinking, we should have known. So the next thing you know, there's another usher, and all of a sudden you start to see some cops and ushers, and you realize there aren't many fans walking this way. So the guy says, let me see your tickets. And so Howard shows him our tickets, and he goes, all right, this way. And we turn, and right then, we walk past the Boston Bruins dressing room. So the door swings open, and there are the greatest players in hockey right there. Now they're playing the Rangers, okay, so this is Boston Rangers. So Howard, of course, is there to see the Rangers, and that was part of the discussion on the car ride up. What if the Bruins win 6-1? You've got to shut up, you can't yell, you're going to get beaten. This is Boston, they'll beat the crap out of you. So guy says, go this way. We walk past the Boston Bruins dressing room. Sure enough, all of a sudden we look straight ahead, and there's the ice. And I mean, the ice is as close as Ira is right now. And so these seats are 2 seats directly next to the Boston Bruins bench. And again, it's the old Garden, and they don't do this anymore, but there is no separation. There's no glass, there's no nothing. When you sit next to the bench, you're sitting next to the backup goalie. So Eddie Johnston was playing this game, so Jerry Cheevers was a scarred mask. Jerry Cheevers is sitting right next to us. And so the first thing is Howie and I are like, all right, who gets to sit next to Cheevers? And so we decided we would switch period by period. One of us would go. So he gets there first. And then, we're sitting there, and so if you know your hockey, right, the defense sits at the end of the bench. They have to be closest to the goal for 2 of the 3 periods. So sitting right next to Jerry Cheevers is Bobby Orr, Dallas Smith. Bobby Orr, the greatest player, ask Don Cherry, the greatest player ever. So we're just peeing in our pants. We can't believe our good fortune, and we had completely forgotten. But now all of a sudden, as it gets closer to game time, we realize there may be a ceremony. They would not have given us these seats if they weren't prepared to honor Timmy, and especially knowing the Boston mentality, wouldn't it be great if they said, here's a kid who came up from New York to see the Bruins and, stick it to the Rangers. So we're just nervous wrecks. We're just nervous wrecks. But anyway, the game begins, and nothing happens, and we watch the first period, and it's just unbelievable because there's no glass in front of us, actually, because we're right next to the players' bench. So we're there, Jerry Cheevers, Bobby Orr. It's unbelievable. And the old Garden rink was 15 feet shorter than other rinks, too, so it's a small rink, right? It's 185 feet long. So we are just, it's like you're on the ice. The period ends, and the security guard starts to walk up towards us and stuff, and we're like, oh no, God, this is it. We're going to be taken out on the ice, or here comes Harry Sinden, what are we going to do? Do you know this story? Your son did this. You helped him write the letter. It was on Lord Jeff stationery. So a security guard comes up, and we're just, we think this is the moment, and he just says, can I see your seat? Can I see your tickets? And so we show him the tickets, and again, we're like, we're going to be escorted to Mr. Sinden's office, and he just looks and he goes, okay, you guys are okay. So anyway, sort of in the second period, we realized we're not going to get busted. This is fantastic. So we just had the time of our lives. And so we sat there talking to Jerry Cheevers and Bobby Orr. Howard, it was extremely hard for him to do, but for that time, for those 3 hours, he pretended he was a Boston fan. And we just had the time of our lives. So that was vintage Howie. So I didn't see Howie because he went south for the school, and you don't really do that in Scarsdale. I don't know what he was doing down there in Dixie, but I didn't see Howie for a long, long time, and I did get to see him back at the sports camp reunion, which was a fabulous, fantastic time. And so just to finish it off, because again, our bond was hockey, he comes up and he says, "Muns, how are you? Been too long. We have a great time. We're talking the whole time." After the first night, he pulls me aside and he says, "I have something for you." So I said, "Well, okay, terrific." And I knew he was a Collier brother, right? Remember those brothers who kept everything? He was a pack rat. He retained everything. And so he pulls out this piece of paper from his pocket, and I'm like, "Well, what's this?" And he said, "Look at it, read it." So I open it up and I read it, and it's a score sheet from, now, again, I think most of you know this, so we can say this, but Howie was one of the, prime movers in the old Jews-Christians roller hockey battles. So only in Scarsdale, right? So we fight over whose original brainstorm it was, but we would play roller hockey. We have some players represented here. There's Michael back there. We had a hard time getting a Christian quorum, right? So the Jews, I'm from Edgewood. It's a small Christian enclave a couple miles over there. But mostly it was there were a lot of Jews. And so Howie pulls this thing out, and he's got a score sheet from 1973 with Jews, Christians, and it has goals and assists and shots on goal. I had no idea this stuff was being compiled. And he sits there, and we went through it, and he had a photographic memory too. He was like Jerry Lucas, and he remembered how these goals were scored. So we just had the best time, and it's quite a hoot. And so from that moment on, Howie and I would email each other, and I would get 2 or 3 emails a week from Howie, because we had this common passion for hockey. So in the last year, we had an epistolary bromance with emails that I'll treasure, and I wish I could read some of these things to you, but it was just wonderful to reconnect with him. But I wanted to share a vintage Howie story, I think, which is using your typewriter without your knowledge and getting us up to Boston. It was just one of the great escapades of all time. So thank you very much.